Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever found yourself emotionally exhausted, not because of what's happening to you, but because of how deeply you feel about everything and everyone around you? If yes, then today's talk might just be your emotional reset button. We live in a world that glorifies passion, connection, and empathy, and yet, ironically, those same qualities can become heavy chains when they bind us too tightly to outcomes, people, and expectations. That's where the subtle art of emotional detachment steps in, not as an escape, but as empowerment. Let's be clear, emotional detachment does not mean becoming cold, indifferent, or heartless. It means learning to feel without falling apart, to care without losing yourself, and to love without attachment to the result. It's about cultivating a calm center in the middle of emotional chaos. Imagine standing in a storm, not fighting it, not running from it, but simply standing, steady and aware. That's what emotional detachment looks like. It's not about suppressing your feelings, it's about observing them. When you can say, "I am feeling anger," instead of "I am angry," you shift from identification to observation. You move from being in the emotion to witnessing it. That simple shift gives you power, the power to choose your response rather than react impulsively. The subtle art of detachment also teaches us that not everything deserves our energy. We often give emotional access to too many things, opinions, judgments, failures, rejections, and in doing so, we scatter ourselves. Detachment reclaims that power. It tells you, you can be deeply involved, but not emotionally enslaved. Think of a tree. The wind comes, storms rage, leaves may fall, but the roots stay grounded. Emotional detachment is that root system within you. It keeps you centered while the seasons of life change. Detachment doesn't make your life empty, it makes it clear. It strips away the noise so you can hear your own truth. It allows you to engage fully with life's moments while maintaining inner freedom. You can love others, but you don't depend on them for validation. You can pursue success, but you don't crumble if it doesn't arrive. You can experience pain, but you know it doesn't define you. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you detach, you actually connect deeper. Because you're no longer driven by fear, control, or need, you love more purely, you listen more honestly, you live more presently. So, as you walk away from this talk, I invite you to reflect. What if you stopped trying to control outcomes and simply started observing them? What if you chose peace over reaction, clarity over chaos, and wisdom over attachment? The subtle art of emotional detachment is not about building walls. It's about finding your wings. It's not about disconnecting from life. It's about reconnecting with yourself. And maybe, just maybe, when you learn to detach with grace, you'll discover that peace was never lost. It was only buried beneath the noise of overattachment. Detachment is not indifference, it's inner freedom in a world that glorifies emotional intensity, where passion is praised and attachment is often mistaken for love. The concept of detachment can seem almost counterintuitive. Many people hear the word detachment and think of coldness, distance, or emotional numbness. But true emotional detachment isn't about becoming indifferent or unfeeling. It's about achieving inner freedom. It's the art of staying open, hearted without being overwhelmed, of caring deeply without being consumed. At its core, emotional detachment is the ability to experience life fully while remaining grounded within yourself. It's the space between feeling and falling apart. Think of it as a quiet strength that allows you to navigate storms without losing your balance. When you practice detachment, you don't run away from your emotions. You simply refuse to let them run you. You learn to be present with what's happening, but you no longer let every event or person dictate your peace. Imagine for a moment that you're standing on a beach. Waves come and go, some gentle, some rough, but you remain standing on the sand, aware, observant, steady. Emotional detachment is like that. The waves are your emotions, anger, joy, sadness, fear, and the sand is your inner stillness. The waves don't stop coming, but you learn not to be swept away by them. You learn to respond consciously, not react impulsively. This inner freedom doesn't appear overnight. It takes awareness, patience, and practice. The first step is to recognize that you are not your emotions. Emotions are temporary visitors. They rise, peak, and fade. The problem begins when we cling to them or let them define who we are. We say, I am angry, instead of I am feeling anger. That subtle shift in language changes everything. It separates our sense of self from the temporary emotional state. Suddenly, we're not in the storm, we're watching it pass. Emotional detachment also means releasing the illusion of control. We often attach to outcomes, people, and circumstances because we fear uncertainty. We think that by holding tightly, we can prevent loss or pain. But the truth is control is an illusion, and attachment often amplifies suffering. When we can let go and trust that whatever is meant for us will stay, and whatever isn't will leave, we create space for peace to enter. That's not indifference, it's wisdom. The beauty of detachment is that it makes your emotions cleaner and purer. When you're not driven by fear or desperation, your love becomes unconditional, your kindness becomes effortless, and your joy becomes self-sustained. You stop chasing happiness in external things and start discovering it within. You no longer need constant validation or attention because your self-worth is not tied to how others treat you or how situations unfold. Detachment also strengthens relationships. When you detach, you stop trying to control others, to change them, or to expect them to fill your emotional gaps. You allow people to be who they are. You love from freedom, not from fear. Ironically, this kind of love is more powerful, more peaceful, and more enduring than attachment-driven love could ever be. So, the subtle art of emotional detachment is not about closing your heart. It's about opening it wisely. It's about knowing when to give, when to step back, and when to let go. It's about realizing that peace is not found in controlling the external world, but in mastering your inner one. And when you reach that point, where you can walk through chaos with calmness, love without clinging, and feel without breaking, you've discovered something rare and powerful, inner freedom, the kind of freedom no circumstance can take away. Observation over identification, one of the most transformative shifts a person can make in emotional awareness is moving from identifying with emotions to observing them. This may sound subtle, but it's a complete game changer in how we experience life. The difference between saying, I am sad, and I am feeling sadness, is the difference between being trapped in an emotion and understanding it. When we identify with our emotions, we become them. Anger doesn't just visit us, it consumes us. Sadness doesn't just pass through, it defines us. We lose perspective, and in that blur, our reactions often cause more damage than the emotion itself ever could. But when we learn to observe emotions, we step back just enough to see them for what they are: temporary, shifting states of mind that come and go like clouds across a vast sky. Imagine your mind as a clear, blue sky. Your emotions, joy, fear, anxiety, excitement, are clouds passing through it. Sometimes the clouds are light and beautiful, other times they're dark and heavy. But no matter how thick the storm, the sky itself, the core of who you are remains untouched. Observation helps you remember that you are the sky, not the clouds. This practice begins with awareness. The next time you feel anger rising, pause. Don't rush to label it as bad or good. Just notice it. There is anger. Where do you feel it? In your chest, in your throat, in your thoughts. The moment you observe it, you create a space between the emotion and the self. And in that space, peace lives. That space gives you the power to choose, not to suppress, not to explode, but to understand and respond wisely. Observation doesn't mean detachment from responsibility. It means taking ownership of your emotions without letting them dictate your every move. It's about saying, I see you, emotion, but you don't get to drive the car. You can still feel anger, but you don't have to lash out. You can feel sadness, but you don't have to spiral into despair. You allow emotions to be felt, not followed. Many spiritual and psychological teachings echo this truth. Mindfulness, for example, is built on the foundation of observation. It teaches us to witness our thoughts and feelings with gentle curiosity instead of judgment. When you practice this consistently, even intense emotions lose their grip. You begin to realize that no feeling, no matter how overwhelming, is permanent. Everything passes, and here's the most beautiful part. When you stop identifying with your emotions, you start understanding them with compassion. You no longer see anger as the enemy, but as a signal that something feels unjust. You no longer see fear as weakness, but as a message to look closer. Every emotion carries information, and when you observe rather than react, you gain access to its wisdom. Observation also nurtures emotional intelligence. You become better at reading your own inner weather and predicting when storms are coming. You learn to communicate more calmly because you're no longer drowning in emotion. You're describing it. That self-awareness not only transforms your inner world, but also your relationships. People feel safer around you because your calm is steady and your response is thoughtful. It's important to note, observation isn't emotional numbness, it's emotional clarity. It's not standing apart from life, but standing within it, with awareness. You still feel deeply, but your feelings don't control your behavior or your peace. You see emotions as waves. You ride them, but you no longer let them sweep you away. In the end, observation over identification is the essence of emotional mastery. It teaches us to be both the participant and the witness of our own life, to experience fully, yet remain centered, to care deeply, yet stay grounded. When you live as the observer, you discover something profound. You are not your anger, not your sadness, not your fear. You are the awareness that notices them all. And that awareness, that observer within you, is calm, vast, and unshakable. That's the real you. Protect your energy, not your ego in the modern world. We often find ourselves emotionally drained, not because we're doing too much, but because we're feeling too much. We absorb opinions, judgments, arguments, and disappointments like sponges, letting them shape our moods and mindset. Yet most of that exhaustion doesn't come from real problems. It comes from the emotional energy we waste defending our ego, not protecting our peace. To truly master emotional detachment, we must learn this essential lesson. Protect your energy, not your ego. Your energy is the core of who you are, your presence, focus, and vitality. Your ego, on the other hand, is the fragile identity that constantly seeks validation, attention, and approval. When you spend your life defending your ego, you're building walls around illusions. But when you learn to protect your energy, you create boundaries around what truly matters, your emotional well-being, your clarity, and your purpose. Let's look at an everyday example. Someone criticizes you unfairly or misunderstands your intentions. The ego wants to fight back, to prove you're right, to win the argument. But what happens afterward? You might win the debate, but lose your peace. Hours later, your mind is still replaying the conversation. That's not victory. That's emotional leakage. The more you let your ego lead, the more your energy drains away. Protecting your energy doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop reacting. It means you learn to ask, is this worth my peace? Most of the time, the answer is no. Not every battle deserves your fire. Not every comment deserves your response. And not every person deserves full emotional access to your world. Detachment teaches you to discern between what's important and what's simply noise. The truth is, emotional energy is your most valuable currency. Every thought, every reaction, every worry costs you something. When you waste that energy trying to control how others see you, or replaying things you can't change, you bankrupt your inner world. Protecting your energy means redirecting it toward growth, creativity, joy, and calm. It's choosing stillness over drama, peace over pride. This practice also involves setting boundaries, not to keep people out, but to keep yourself intact. Boundaries are acts of self-respect. They say, my peace matters more than your approval. It might feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to pleasing others, but boundaries are what preserve your energy for what truly deserves it. It's important to understand that ego thrives on reaction. The more you feed it, through anger, defensiveness, or comparison, the stronger it becomes. But the moment you choose not to engage, it loses power. Silence can sometimes be the loudest form of strength. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to prove your worth to those who don't see it. Your peace is proof enough. Protecting your energy also means being mindful of what and who you allow into your emotional space. The conversations you entertain, the media you consume, the company you keep, all influence your energy field. You become what you absorb. Detachment is not isolation, it's curation. It's choosing to align yourself with people and experiences that uplift rather than drain you. When you start protecting your energy, life becomes lighter. You begin to see that most things people say or do aren't personal. They're projections of their own emotions. Instead of taking things to heart, you start to understand them. Instead of reacting, you start responding. And that's when your power returns to you. Ego screams, peace whispers, ego fights for validation, energy flows toward meaning. When you stop trying to prove your worth and start preserving your inner calm, you begin to live with quiet confidence. You no longer chase recognition. You radiate self-assurance. So, protect your energy fiercely. Guard your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Every moment you choose stillness over reaction, understanding over argument, you reclaim a part of yourself that the ego once ruled. And that is the essence of true emotional strength, to remain soft, kind, and grounded in a world that constantly tries to pull you into chaos. Stay rooted, not rigid. One of the greatest lessons emotional detachment teaches us is how to stand strong without becoming hard. Life is constantly shifting. People change, circumstances evolve, and even our own desires transform over time. To survive and thrive through all of it, we must learn to be rooted, not rigid. Imagine a tree in the middle of a storm. The wind howls, the rain pounds, and yet the tree remains standing. Why? Because its roots go deep. It bends, it sways, but it doesn't break. That is the essence of emotional detachment. It's not about resisting the wind, it's about trusting your roots. It's about knowing that no matter how chaotic life becomes on the surface, your inner stability will hold you steady. Being rooted means staying connected to your values, your peace, and your truth. It's the inner knowing that even if everything external falls apart, you will still be okay. But being rigid is different. Rigidity comes from fear, the fear of change, the fear of loss, the fear of uncertainty. A rigid tree snaps under pressure, while a rooted one bends with grace. Similarly, when we hold on too tightly to our expectations, beliefs, or attachments, we become brittle. We break under emotional pressure instead of growing through it. The art of staying rooted, but not rigid, begins with self-awareness. You must know what truly anchors you, what gives your life meaning, what keeps you emotionally stable, and what values you refuse to compromise on. That's your root system. These roots may include your integrity, your inner peace, your compassion, or your spiritual beliefs. Once you know what grounds you, you can face any emotional storm with calm assurance. However, staying rooted doesn't mean staying unchanged. Life will test you again and again, asking you to evolve, to adapt, to let go of what no longer serves you. Emotional detachment allows you to do this gracefully. When you're detached, you can accept change without resisting it, because your identity isn't tied to outcomes. It's tied to your essence. You stop clinging to what was and start flowing with what is. Consider how relationships, careers, and even dreams evolve over time. When we're rigid, we fight that evolution. We hold on to old versions of people, to plans that no longer fit us, or to identities that have expired. But when we're rooted, we can let go without losing ourselves. We understand that endings are not failures, they're transitions. We can say goodbye to chapters without closing our hearts. Staying rooted also means maintaining emotional balance. When the world tries to shake your confidence or your peace, your roots, your self-awareness and your detachment keep you steady. You don't need to control everything to feel safe. You've learned that your strength lies not in resistance, but in resilience. Detachment gives you that resilience. It's what allows you to bend, not break. But here's the key. Being flexible doesn't mean being passive. It's not about giving up your voice or letting life push you around. It's about responding rather than reacting. It's about adapting while staying authentic. Think of bamboo, it's flexible, but it's also one of the strongest plants on earth. Its flexibility is its power. In the same way, your ability to flow with life's changes without losing your inner foundation is your greatest emotional strength. When you live rooted yet flexible, you discover peace in motion. You stop fearing uncertainty because you trust yourself to handle whatever comes. You no longer crumble when plans fail or when people leave. You understand that everything is temporary, but your inner calm can be permanent if you nurture it. So, stay rooted in who you are, but never be so rigid that you can't grow into who you're meant to become. Let your detachment be the soil that nourishes your resilience. Let your adaptability be the sunlight that helps you flourish. In the end, the secret to surviving life's storms is not in resisting them, but in learning to dance with the wind while keeping your roots deep in peace. That's the true strength of emotional detachment, to remain steady, soft, and strong, all at once. Detachment deepens connection at first glance. The idea that detachment could deepen connection seems paradoxical. After all, we often associate closeness with attachment and detachment with distance, but emotional detachment, when practiced with awareness, doesn't create distance, it creates clarity. It doesn't block connection, it purifies it. When you let go of control, expectations, and fear, what's left is a love and connection that's genuine, free, and deeply human. In most relationships, whether romantic, familial, or professional, our pain arises not from the connection itself, but from our attachments within it. We attach to how someone should behave, what they should say, or how they should make us feel. We start measuring love through reciprocation, attention, or validation. The moment those conditions aren't met, we suffer. The truth is, it's not love that hurts. It's attachment. Love is freeing. Attachment is binding. Detachment doesn't mean walking away from people. It means walking away from unhealthy dependencies, from the need to control or to be constantly reassured. It's loving without ownership, caring without clinging, and giving without expectation. It's saying, I love you enough to let you be yourself, and I love myself enough to remain whole even if you're not here. That's the foundation of mature, peaceful connection. When we practice detachment, we begin to relate to others from a place of fullness rather than need. We stop trying to extract happiness from people and instead share happiness with them. This shift transforms the quality of every relationship. Instead of demanding love, we offer it. Instead of seeking understanding, we extend it. When love is no longer a transaction but a gift, it becomes purer, stronger, and unconditional. Consider the difference between holding sand in a tight fist and holding it gently in an open palm. The tighter you grip, the more it slips away. The looser you hold, the more it stays. That's what detachment does. It replaces possessiveness with peace. You stop holding people hostage to your expectations and start allowing them to breathe, grow, and choose freely. And when people feel free around you, they trust you more deeply. In friendships and family dynamics, emotional detachment allows us to support others without absorbing their emotions. It gives us the space to listen without judgment and help without losing ourselves in their struggles. You can care deeply for someone and still recognize that their happiness is ultimately their responsibility, not yours. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you compassionate in a way that empowers rather than entangles. In romantic relationships, detachment is often misunderstood. Many fear that detachment will dull passion or weaken bonds, but in truth, it does the opposite. When love is free from fear and dependency, it becomes more authentic. You no longer love because you need, you love because you choose. Detachment creates space for trust to flourish and for love to evolve beyond control or insecurity. Even in the workplace or community, detachment plays a role. It helps you stay connected to your purpose without being attached to outcomes. You give your best, not because you crave praise, but because excellence itself fulfills you. When you detach from constant approval, your confidence becomes self-sustaining, and your interactions become more genuine. Perhaps the greatest gift of detachment is that it turns connection inward. It teaches you to connect deeply with yourself. You stop chasing validation and start nurturing self-respect. You stop searching for peace in others and discover it within. Ironically, once you become whole on your own, you begin attracting healthier, stronger, and more honest relationships, because people sense your calm and are drawn to it. So yes, detachment deepens connection, not by reducing emotion, but by refining it. It removes the noise of fear, control, and insecurity, leaving behind only sincerity. It's not the absence of love, it's love in its purest form, steady, peaceful, and unconditional. When you detach, you don't lose connection, you lose confusion. You don't stop loving, you start loving better. You don't drift away from people, you start meeting them at a higher, freer, more authentic level. And that's the ultimate beauty of emotional detachment. It doesn't harden your heart, it liberates it. It allows you to experience connection that doesn't bind but blesses, that doesn't drain but fills, that doesn't confine but expands. As we come to the close of this reflection on the subtle art of emotional detachment, let's pause and remember what this journey truly means. Detachment is not an escape from emotion, it's an evolution of it. It's not about walking away from life, but about walking through it with grace, clarity, and peace. We live in an age where overstimulation has become normal. Every headline demands outrage, every opinion sparks debate, and every relationship carries unspoken expectations. We are constantly feeling, reacting, defending, and proving, and yet, deep down, what we crave isn't more intensity, it's inner stillness. Detachment gives us that stillness. It teaches us that true strength is quiet, and that peace is not found in controlling the storm, but in standing calmly at its center. When we practice detachment, we begin to understand that emotions are not enemies, they are messengers. They come to show us where we need healing, understanding, or release, but they are not meant to define who we are. You are not your anger, you are not your sadness, you are not your fear, you are the awareness behind them all, the steady observer who can feel deeply and still remain unshaken. Emotional detachment helps us protect what truly matters: our energy, our focus, and our peace. It reminds us that not every battle deserves our presence, and not every opinion deserves our attention. The moment we stop defending our ego, we begin preserving our spirit. We reclaim our time, our attention, and our joy. To be detached is to be deeply connected to yourself, to others, and to life itself, in the most genuine way possible. You begin to love without ownership, to give without expectation, and to listen without judgment. You start to see people not as extensions of your desires, but as souls walking their own paths, and that is the purest form of connection there is. Staying rooted yet flexible becomes your way of being. You bend with change, but never break under it. You learn to let go of control and trust the natural rhythm of life. You begin to realize that peace was never something to be found. It was always something to be remembered. In the end, the subtle art of emotional detachment is the art of coming home to yourself. It's about standing firm in your truth while the world moves around you. It's about learning that letting go is not losing, it's freeing. So, as you leave here today, take this thought with you. You are allowed to care deeply without carrying everything. You are allowed to feel intensely without losing your peace. And you are allowed to love fully without losing yourself. Detachment isn't the end of emotion. It's the beginning of emotional freedom. It's the quiet mastery of your inner world, the gentle art of peace in motion, and the beautiful reminder that your calm is your power. Thank you.